Amin has.
Amin just pulled a Shaq.
I gotta drop a deuce real quick.
I would have texted about it first if that were the case.
That's true.
Yeah.
Do you have any good shitting story, like Shaq shitting stories? I mean, I feel like you probably have.
I mean, I have the absolute pinnacle one, which went viral a couple of months ago. Which is the vengeance on Lou Amundsen story.
Oh no!
Yeah, Lou Amundsen filled his car with peanuts on the second to last day of the year, which we all told Lou was a bad idea. Like, if you're gonna do it, it's got to be the last day, because then you're gone, you disappear. Mm-hmm. But he gave him like the opening for that one last day. So the last game of the year, Shaq shows up super early to get his treatment and stuff done, and the first thing he does is he takes a dump. And he takes Lou Amundsen's hairbrush and he stirs the dump with the hairbrush, then rinses off like the loose particles and then replaces it back in his locker. Then what did he do? He took his mouthpiece and he wiped his ass with it. Then what else did he do? He took a leak in his sneakers. Oh my! But here's the really crazy part. The crazy part.
That's not the crazy part.
No,
is wiping someone's mouth guard.
No.
Wiping your ass with a mouth guard.
Are we live? Is this live?
Yeah, it is now.
Welcome to the Illuminati.
What he did, the crazy thing was, and this is where Shaq is devious. He created a whole like fictitious revenge plot that centered around, I'm going to shave, Lou had the ponytail at the time, I'm going to shave his hair off. And so that was what Lou was worried about the whole time. And so, like, after shoot around or whatever, Shaq tackles him, gets clippers, and then just cuts into his eyebrow. And Lou thinks, oh, he got his revenge. And then all the other shit happens. So then, like, gets to
Shaq's playing chess, not checkers. Is
mind
what
games,
you're saying.
mind games. Yes, absolutely. So then he's like, like when Luka, the first thing he did, he looked at his sneakers. He didn't even smell anything. He was like, I don't trust these sneakers. He went and got a fresh pair from the equipment manager. So then we start the game, and the players don't have the mouthpieces on them. The trainer keeps them, like basically in that little tray thing that has the gum and the mints and all that shit. That's where they keep the mouthpieces. So Lou starts off on the bench, and we're all sitting there like, holy shit, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? So finally, like, all right, Lou, get in there. That ball is at the free throw line. So he gets in there. He's got the mouthpiece, but like it's the free throws. So he doesn't put it in until like after the free throws are over. So he's in there. First free throw goes up. We're like, everyone's like, it's about to happen. It's about to happen. Whoop. Other team calls timeout like, shit. So Alvin's drawn up a play in the huddle, and like there's only one player who's paying attention to the play, and it's Lou. Lou's like this. And everyone else is staring at Lou like, oh shit, is he gonna do it? So get back out there for the second free throw. Second free throw goes up, it's good. Lou inbounds, puts the mouthpiece in his mouth, takes 1-2 steps, grabs it and flings it at the bench, right? Whole bench erupts. We listened to the broadcast later. The broadcast is like, the bench seems to be reacting to something. And like, there's no clue, right? He goes through the whole game, all that shit. Now, here's the fucked up part. He goes, takes a shower. Yeah. As he's about to like brush his hair or whatever, Matt Barnes said, no, man. I can't let you do that. Matt Barnes saves him from the hairbrush. But I'm like, should you save him from the mouth guard? Like,
Matt Barnes secretly best teammate ever for stepping in front of that, but should have done it way earlier. Like the mouthpiece in your mouth is way different than a brush going through your hair.
Yeah, man. He showed up at 6 a.m. to do all that shit, by the way.
All that shit. Yes. Shit. Welcome, Jason Gallagher.
Yeah. What's up, fellas? I have no idea. What's funny is I got no rundown. I don't know what we're talking about today. I got nothing. And this is what we want
this is
into. I love
this is why you got no rundown.
I mean, warmed you up like
that's right.
Sally Jesse Raphael or something in the crowd, you know, just get the audience pumped up.
So Jason's the head of production at 342 Productions. He's Emmy award-winning director.
That's Jason Gallagher?
Yeah, that's him right there.
I thought
OM3 hat on, fresh merch for the program.
I thought the Jason Gallagher we were getting was noted longtime Dallas Maverick faithful fan, the guy that I called upon when I found that Dirk was going to the Hall of Fame. That Hall of Fame class, we got different guys to do like little vignettes or whatever, like interviews about like what this guy meant to the franchise. And so we got Jason Jackson to talk about Dwayne Wade from Miami. I can't remember who else was in that class. So for Dallas, we got Jason Gallagher. And I said, you know what, man? This guy's never, ever, 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 ever going to turn his back.
He's a lifer.
Beloved Dallas Mavericks. He's a lifer. There's no, when you talk about loyalty, you look up loyalty in the dictionary, you see a picture of Dirk Nowitzki and Jason Gallagher's behind him, though, in that picture.
Going like this.
With a Maverick, going like this with a Mavericks hat on. And, you know, I can't wait to talk nothing but Mavericks with my favorite Maverick fan, Jason Gallagher, who would never, ever turn his back on a franchise.
But you know what? The franchise cheated on him, right?
Unless the franchise turns their back on him.
Oh, wow.
You ready for this? No. I'm ready to get into it because I've had many, you know, Twitter arguments, which I do love to do. I love to get in Twitter arguments, and I've gotten many about, you know, is it right or wrong to turn your back on a fan base when, you know, what does it mean to be loyal? All of this other stuff, and put a lot of thought into it. But I'll just start with this. When you're a father, you have a responsibility.
Oh, man.
I'm starting there. And I'm saying, look, I'm cursed as a Cowboys fan and have been my whole life because my father, who I love very much, led me down a path. And so it's just misery and pain. It's extra misery and pain, given the circumstance with the Mavericks, that my son, I mean, his school is a 3-minute drive from the arena of the Thunder. All of his friends are in Thunder jerseys. The joy is around him at all times. And what am I going to do? Say, hey, we are Mavericks fans. We don't partake in this. I just can't do that given all of the circumstances that have taken place. You know, if someone wants to question me, then they need to question Dirk. They need to question most Mavs employees, like most lifers. I mean, I'm probably the one who has truly like severed. Like I truly want nothing to do with that organization. Is
there a room in your house you still go to where the Mavericks fan is trapped? And you walk into that room and you become a Mavericks fan again and cry, and then you walk back out?
Oh yeah, I mean,
there's a Dirk shrine somewhere, right?
That room's called 2011.
I've got all my maps. I've got all the stuff from the good old days up still, and that'll always have a special place in my heart. And by the way, we're all guilty of, you know, creeping on our exes from time to time, and I absolutely do that. So
a quick Instagram check of like, what's been up to?
Yeah, what's going on over there? No, but look, it's also, I mean, y'all kind of both, everybody here works within the league, and you start to develop personal relationships with people, and then all of a sudden the fandom is like, you know, it's just something that I was just tied to, but it's like, man, it'd be nice to cheer for the Lakers, or it'd be nice to cheer for JJ or this or that. This has basically let me go, okay, you know what? Done with this. Now I'm going to enjoy this chapter of my life where I cheer for my friends, I cheer for the local team, that's kind of where I'm at.
So like when the trade happens, the Luka trade happens, was there like a Jason in purgatory kind of period where you were deciding like, do I make the leap or not?
I wish I could go back and like really, really chronicleize the how it all kind of went down. You guys know Kirk Serious Face. the Mavs lunatic who I love, like dearly love. I remember that night us both being like, well, Luka asked out, and there was just this processing thing that was happening with Mavericks fans that were trying to rationalize it. And I think that there is still a portion of the fan base that's trying to figure out how and why and what's going on. But once it became clear that they traded him for sort of more personal, petty reasons, and once it became doubled down on and then tripled down on, and then you realize just how long this process has been happening, this transition from what the Mavericks were to what they are, it's like, oh, wow, this is not even, it's not even that the roster's different. It's that the entire organization is different. And it's really crazy to think about. I mean, honestly, it's crazy to think about. And when you start to read that, you know, the Casey Smith stuff, when you start to read the Dirk stuff, it's like, yeah, this is not the Dallas. This is literally just they have the same logo at this point.
Well, Jason, geographic proximity notwithstanding, what was the decision that you said, I'm going to root for the Thunder and not for the team that has people that I have friendships with, people that I've worked with, and people that I have, and people who might have been the best player for the team that I grew up rooting for?
Yeah, it was a pretty simple decision. Well, I'll just say in these playoffs, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how I'll feel if they meet in the conference finals. Looks like I might not have to worry about that. We'll see. You know, still TBD. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't also cheering for the Lakers. I absolutely am. Like JJ's a very dear friend of mine, and I want him to succeed. Like that is the A1. I was cheering that way while the Mavericks, you know, still had Luka. So that's all the same. But I just sort of stripped away all the rules. I guess that's where I'm at. As I just said, I got two teams. They're both in the West. They might meet each other. If they do, I'll be Rob Lowe at an NFL game with the NBA hat on. That's it. With
the OM3 hat.
That's right. OM3, but that might be a blue one. So it's like Thunder colors with JJ, you know, whatever. So yeah, I mean, for professional reasons, I want LeBron to do well. We do the podcast, you know.
Yeah.
So there's all of these things, but honestly, you know, if JJ moves on, if LeBron ever retires, Luka leaves, like whatever, like I'm not going to be a Lakers fan. I think that I'll be cheering for the Thunder, you know, especially because I'm going to be here for a while. I'll be cheering for the Thunder no matter what they look like, because they're just, it's a fun time in this tiny little town when this team's doing well. So,
you know, it's crazy because growing up, it was such a big deal. Hey man, you root for a team and that's your team, right? Yep. Like, oh, like the shame of like, oh, your team's bad, you don't root for them anymore. Oh, you root for that other team. Oh, what a bandwagon. And then as I got older, I was like, yeah, I like watching the team that does this thing well. I like basketball, and I like basketball done well. Why would I be married to someone not doing it well? Why would I reject? Why would I reject someone doing it at the best level possible?
Well, I was really sad about the Mavs fandom moving on. I think that's another part of it too. That there was like a real, like, when I look back at sort of my life, how much the Mavs are sort of involved in it, and I attribute to them. I attribute those Dirk teams as to why I do what I do. That love of basketball that I have is rooted in that. It's the amount of friends that I've made, the connections and the memories you build with your family. That's cross-generational. Like, I get it. I totally get it. And I was a huge subscriber to it. But again, it's like what the Mavs had. And we all know professional sports. What the Mavs had was this unbelievable story. They kind of fell into it, but they had an unbelievable story, which was centered around Dirk Nowitzki, him passing the baton to Luka. They could claim loyalty never fades away, even though, like, you know, if they don't win in 2011, Dirk's absolutely not a Maverick for life. So, like, but they fell into that, and then they completely ripped it up, and in a way that, like, again, it's not. I'm not the only one here. You know, it surprised me as much as anyone when my dad sent me a screenshot of him buying like a Lakers shirt. I was like, wow. Like, yeah, I just never thought I'd see that. Like, it's crazy.
I was just going to say, you probably have not only like your professional relationships and personal that have gone into personal relationships with JJ Redick, the head coach of the Lakers, and then you do the podcast with LeBron, and you have probably a bunch of friends, former Mavs fans, that are now like, you know what? I'm riding with Luka. I know it's the Lakers. Yeah. I'm riding with Luka. I want to see him 100%. Win a championship over those Dallas Mavericks, and I want to get that kind of revenge by rooting for Luka and all the successes that come to him and not Nico Harrison. Then your dad's coming out here with, I'm buying Luka stuff. So is it your son and growing up, you're raising your son in Oklahoma City? Like, was that just such a powerful force? Because here in Charlotte, like, I feel it with my kids and like Panthers and Hornets, but they're not the Thunder. They're not the Thunder, not even close to it.
That's a great question.
It would be like recording. It would be insane to not jump into this right now. I mean, anybody who understands basketball, the cap situation, the future, like the Thunder have built the Death Star and they're going to be dominant for a while. Whether they win championships, I don't know, but they've put themselves in a position to be very successful for a long time. And to be this close to the arena and to not dive in, it seems crazy. And it's such a fun, it's so, like, you know what's crazy about this is that the arena is loud as hell. They haven't had, like, in the last 2 years, they haven't had their playoff moment yet, like their game winner. And when that happens, I cannot wait. But yeah, it would be crazy. And honestly, again, we talk about personal relationships. The Thunder have been unbelievably nice to me. And the one thing about the Mavericks, we talk behind the scenes. I don't give a shit. The Mavericks have not been that way to me ever. And they have, like, I'll say this on this podcast right now. I'm going to tell you this story. Okay, so we did, remember I wrote the song HalleLuka during Luka's rookie year. And it was a big old hit, okay?
Shout out to Isaac Lee.
They flew Isaac Lee and I out to a game. And it was one of the, like, actual breakout games of Luka's career, because they were down by like 15 points in the fourth. He hit a bunch of step backs, whatever. It was against Houston. So they asked if they can have the assets, the visual assets that I created, because I was an editor and I just kind of like made a bunch of shit myself. So asked if they could have the visual assets that I created so they could display it while we performed HalleLuka at the arena, whatever. Great. Awesome. We perform it. And then I noticed that they kept the assets until they traded him. Every time Luka hit a three, they would flash these designs that I made all around the arena. They started selling shirts with the assets on it. All of this stuff. Okay. And I have fans like in the Twitter mentions that are like, did you ever get paid for this? I would say no. They would say, what the hell? And they try to raise a ruckus about it. And I would be like, you know what? I kind of think it's cool. And the only thing that I thought was kind of fucked up was that it was like a pain in the ass to ever get a ticket to a Mavericks game. I had to text all of these people to try. And it was and then the Thunder were just like the absolute opposite. Now, granted, it's smaller market. I got it.
Do you want to meet the Thunder? Like, do you want to meet the mayor?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, literally, they've been so accommodating, and I'm kind of like, I don't understand. And I never raised a stink about it. And I remember there was one day where there was kind of a little bit of a bubble. Like, there were all these Mavs fans like tweeting at Mark Cuban, be like, have you never paid Jason for this? Whatever. You know, he DMs me, is like, put HalleLuka on Spotify. And I was like, am I really about to explain to you how, like, things work? Like Leonard Cohen's estate would have something to say about me putting HalleLuka on Spotify. But let's just ignore that. I never really cared about getting paid because I did think it was cool that my favorite team was flashing my shit everywhere. But I was always annoyed by the fact that it was so difficult to get a ticket to a game. And so, like, I've always been a little bit salty about how difficult they've made things, given how, like, I never raised a stink about that ever. So anyways, that's the side.
Jason, let me ask you this question, right? Because it is rather convenient. Obviously, you already lived there, but it is convenient that you lived in the town with the best team in basketball right now that has a great runway. What if you were Tom Habistro? What if, like, this entire, you're a Mavericks fan, all this stuff, the trade happens, but instead of living in Oklahoma City, you live in Charlotte.
Yeah,
like minutes away from. Yeah, right next to Bank of America Arena.
Imagine you're Tom Haberstroh, miserable in Charlotte. Just what would your life be like?
What would the decision have been as far as like to find a new team? What would have been then?
I mean, what's fun about the situation is I don't have to imagine that, but I guess I really am deciding to be a Thunder fan to kind of go through the highs and lows of being a fan. So it worked out. I think in this playoffs, I would be like absolutely going for the Lakers because there's no Hornets to root for. So, but I do think that I would ultimately wind up adopting whatever the local team is.
I also think that OKC, the fandom of OKC, seems very underrated. Like the team itself is super fun, not just the basketball team being good. It's just I don't know, the fan experience with
Tom.
Well, they're just still in this naive phase, like in a weird way, and it's like so. It's still very honeymoon-esque. It's so fun. I'll be curious to see what happens if they do wind up winning, and then there's a loss. Like, what kind of fan base do they turn into? One thing that's really been funny to me about watching Mark Cuban side of things with this whole trade is I don't know if you guys read his like exchange in the Facebook group or Facebook comments. He was like getting into it with a former employee. And he basically said that, he sold a team because the fan base had become so toxic on the internet. The internet's become so toxic. He didn't want to put his family through that. I don't know if I totally believe it, but I think honestly, it's a sign of a maturing fan base. I don't know what to tell you. No one gave a shit about the Mavericks when he bought the team, and he built an organization where there was a long sustained run of winning. Then it was kind of herky-jerky, but he built a fan base that was used to winning. And then they stopped winning. And, I don't know. I mean, try living in Boston if they suck for a while, or try living in any of these major markets if they suck for a while. The fans are going to be, talk to a Knicks fan. Come on now. That's the sign of a fan base that just expects good basketball. Anyways, I don't know if I answered your question. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
No, but it is true in that it's the team is excellent and also the bandwagon is still rather empty. Typically when you're as good as the Thunder are, we're already sick of it. People are everywhere. I wonder if they do win the title, does that change, or is there something about this experience that's still kind of new?
Yeah, I mean,
is that the word?
I think so. And I think what's so interesting about especially their rebuild years was obviously the Durant Westbrook stuff happened. And then there was this, weird team. And then with Chris Paul, and then they went into rebuild mode. What's really unique about this situation is that Oklahoma is very much a football town. Don't get that twisted. Their Sooners are number one. The Oklahoma State Cowboys, I mean, that is the predominant sport here is still very much football. So Sam Presti actually he should never leave, because when they're tanking, people just go up Sooners, and that's it, and they don't give a shit. They just kind of turn off for a while. It's not allowed. I remember when they played the first. I had moved to Oklahoma City, and it was when the Dallas Mavericks had traded for Kyrie, and so they missed the play-in, I believe. Yeah, they missed the play-in. So I was I got no stakes in this playoffs. Go, let's see what the Thunder do. The Thunder had made their first, this iteration of Thunder were in a play-in game against the Wolves, I want to say. So it was their first time dipping their toes into this postseason. And I remember trying to look up a watch party. I was are fans getting together? And there was nothing. And so I reached out to Andrew Schlecht, who does Down to Dunk, which is the local Oklahoma City podcast. He also writes for The Athletic. Yeah. And I was like, can we figure something out? So we called a bar, and we a Mavericks fan had to organize a watch party, which is really funny. But that's they're still in this honeymoon phase. Yeah. It's really fun. It's they don't understand NBA basketball. Every time I go to a game, every 2 seconds, someone's being like, that's a walk. That's a walk. And it's dude, welcome to the NBA. They're never going to call a walk. So it's still fresh and new, and it's fun. It's fun to watch and be a part of. It's great.
What was it like watching Luka get emotional before the game?
So I was there. It was a little bit difficult to see it in the arena. You could kind of see it, and you were like, "Oh, was he crying?" Like, but it was like flashes of it because they were showing the video. And so the only time we really got eyes on him was right when the video ended, and you could see that he had been crying. It was awesome. I mean, that experience, I don't think I'll ever see a moment like that ever. I'm so glad I was there, because it was really crazy. It was like the fan base had been on some mass email, and they all understood the message and the mission. And like, we're going to show Luka love. We're going to respect our home players, but we're going to primarily show Luka love, and we're going to tell Nico to go fuck himself. That was the message. So, and it was like,
it's validating as a fan, though, right? Isn't it? Just that to 100%. See that it meant that much to him.
Oh my God. And there are still people that will get in my mentions, other fan bases or whatever. And it's like, they're like, I'm like, when you start to tell, so I got into a little bit with one of the Mavs announcers, who is like a real friend. And we wound up texting and telling each other we love each other, whatever. But we feel pretty grounded in our beliefs in this. And he was like, it's disrespectful that they do fire Nico chants during a free throw. And I'm just a little like, man, if I'm ever in an arena full of people doing one thing and I'm like, they're all wrong, I don't know, man. It's the Principal Skinner meme of like, are the kids wrong? It's the kids who are out of touch, not me. It's like, that's what it feels like a little bit. It's kind of like, read the room. Like, yeah. I have a photo, which I could send you guys after this. I was sitting in like the 200 sections in one of the boxes, and there's an entire section below me. I took a photo. It was all the backs. They're all kind of like, you could just see their backs. And it was like, there wasn't a single Mavericks jersey that wasn't a Luka jersey. It was crazy. Like,
and for Nico to say he didn't understand how much Dallas loved Luka.
He's lying. He's lying. Like, he understood. It was petty. That's what it was. He didn't like him. It's the end of story. And the biggest example of that is, and I wish a reporter would ask, if defense was so important, why wasn't Kyrie ever considered? Like, and why is he untouchable? Because he's called Kyrie basically untouchable. So like, if defense wins championships, why did you like? It wasn't about defense. It was about personal petty grievances. That's all it was.
It was about organizational influence, right? It was about, this guy has too much power internally. And this is how, by the way, the CIA weakens regimes in countries that we deem to be not friendly.
This is the CIA blueprint.
It's straight out the blueprint. It's like, okay, first thing you do, you start to weaken all the surrogates and all the other people who kind of prop up all this stuff. And at the end, now you have a regime that's ready to get toppled. And he does the toppling, but he didn't realize that the people, I guess, or are like, they really, really like their boy king. And so, I mean, it's hard. I've had GMs come up to me and say, what do you think that's about? Because no one legitimately on a basketball level understands what the fuck this guy is talking about. There's no basketball reason other than, again, kind of what we've learned from the reporting in the weeks and months following, is that they felt like, and by the way, he might not be wrong that Luka had an undue amount of power and influence within the organization in a way that could make someone uncomfortable, right? But to purge it just seems like a ridiculous answer to the dilemma.
Jason, would you have felt differently about the trade? And do you think you'd be a Dallas Mavericks fan still if they got Austin Reeves and the picks, and it felt like the process?
Forget about, like, if they got like 5 first-round picks.
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't. I think I'd be more on the line, because being a Mavericks fan, it's a spectrum right now. It's you got people that are 1 foot in, 1 foot out, 1 toe in, some people all the way out, whatever. I think I'd be more on the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I think I'd be a little bit more pissed. But if you can justify it somewhere, I think I would still flirt with it. I think I would still be mad, but I think I would be like, let's see. The problem I see right now is that it's not very justified anywhere. And you can't really make a case for it on any level. And I would love for I would love for somebody to legitimately try, not like to my face, make the case for why this is the deal. And you can't. You can't from a basketball perspective, from a business perspective, from a fan base perspective. You literally can't make a case for it. And so it really boils down to one person's grievances. That's it.
Okay, so let's play this game. We used to play this game on the jump called Blame Pie.
Ooh,
got a pie. The size of the slice, the largest slice goes to the person who's most to blame, et cetera, right? Because it is a scale. It's never 100% one person. Yeah. I give you, these are the names: Nico Harrison, Patrick Dumont, Mark Cuban, and let's throw in Jeff Schwartz just because this is basketball Illuminati.
I'm going to ignore the Jeff Schwartz thing. I want to go with those three. Okay.
All right. Let's go with those three names.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go Nico 75%.
Okay.
Dumont, I can't do math.
It's 25%.
Yeah, 25.
Like 2 people.
Okay. Dumont 15%, Cuban 10%.
Okay. Let me play devil's advocate here. Just say,
yeah,
isn't this all Mark Cuban's fault? He's the one that hired Nico.
Yeah, okay.
He's the one that sold the team. He's the one that tried to sell us on this cockamamie system of, I sold the team, but I still get to call all the shots.
How far back do you want to go here? Where's Ross Perot's percentage of blame?
No, Ross Perot gets nothing.
Nice. I like this. Nice counter. And you know what? You just ruined his camera.
Yep. Toppled him just like that.
Toppled him.
No, wasn't ready for the Ross Perot commentary.
Look, I understand what you're saying. I'm not even like here's where I'll go. Rather than arguing the Mark Cuban thing, I'm just gonna make the case for the Nico thing because it's really hard for some fans to like really wrap their minds around this. And that's why I think you get all these conspiracies about Vegas and gambling and blah, blah, blah. But it was absolutely Nico's agenda. It was absolutely unchecked, which is partially Mark Cuban's fault. But and he's outwardly saying it, and still somehow fans are like, I don't know, man, he's just a pawn in all of this, or and it's like that I would not put my name on the worst trade in NBA history unless it was me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not sure why he would be doing this the way he's doing it right now. So I think it's just, Mark Cuban. Yeah, I guess it's partially. I understand the case for why it's his fault. I don't think he's putting the Mavericks in this position if he knew what Nico was going to do. I don't think he would have hired Nico. I don't think, I just don't think he would have done it. Now, I will say this. I think this is all rooted in Mark Cuban's obsession with free agency. I think this entire thing can be traced back to 2012 when he decided to break up a championship team. Well, because
they were chasing Dwight Howard
and let Tyson Chandler go and try to get the big name. And it was summer after summer of swing and miss. DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, Darren Williams. And he would always get them on the second go round, but never the first. Mm-hmm. And he just kept chasing these big names. And I think it's a little bit of a complex of a guy who wants to be credited for a successful team. So, so I think that's why he hires Nico Harrison rather than somebody who's, an experienced GM who could possibly build through the draft and build through this or that. So, that's why he goes and gets Nico, is strictly for relationship purposes. And now we're seeing a team built around Nico's relationships. Sucks.
Jason, Nico said that we had 2.5 quarters of championship caliber talent on the floor. And so we really haven't gotten to see his vision, which I know probably that's what gets his goat. Do you believe the Dallas Mavericks are now cursed? Do you believe in curses?
I don't believe in curses. I don't believe in curses, but I believe in probabilities. And it's raise your hand if you're shocked that an offense driven by Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis is not available. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. And I the Kyrie thing was a freak thing, but again, it's probabilities. Like, I've never seen a Kyrie Irving like solely like there's no other creators on that team. It's Kyrie and then maybe Dinwiddie if you want to whatever. But it's Kyrie, and so he is going to be holding the ball most of the time. And when he's out of options, he loves to drive to the basket. It's like, these things happen, but kind of when you're putting an added load on him. And by the way, prior to the Luka trade, ask any Mavericks fan, everyone was worried about Kyrie. They were. He was not. When he was having to carry a load when Luka had missed time, and so people were worried about his back, all sorts of stuff. Anthony Davis, kind of same thing. Not to beat an old drum, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not necessarily surprised by any of this. So that's all.
There's this thing that happened over the weekend when Damian Lillard gets hurt. He tears his Achilles. And my immediate thought was, obviously, it sucks for Damian Lillard. But in like basketball terms, I was looking at the Dallas Mavericks and being, that's why you don't trade Luka to the Los Angeles Lakers for 50 cents on the dollar. Because right now, Giannis Antetokounmpo is potentially going to be traded.
Yeah.
And the Dallas Mavericks are sitting here with no really assets to trade for that guy. But they had Luka. And the opportunity cost of trading Luka Doncic is that you can't take Luka Doncic to the next available superstar when they become available, right? So Anthony Davis was there, and Nico Harrison said, I want that guy. If he had waited maybe 3 months later, they could be looking at Giannis Antetokounmpo instead. If they wanted to trade Luka, they were like, you know what? If we're going to trade Luka Doncic, you're going to have to get a top 5 player in the NBA. And there he is, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jason, how much of the trade was the return and the fact that, like, okay, if you're out on Luka, at least get me something better. And no disrespect to Anthony Davis, but Giannis could have been available like 3 months later. And
I see your question. And I think that what makes it so difficult, and again, why I'm so out was you traded, first off, Luka and these Mavericks, and this improves roster. It's now improved, but previously they had gone to the NBA Finals. Okay, so you're in some ways trading your present. They had basically traded all their draft capital to build around Luka, and then didn't get any picks really in return. So you trade your future, all for this very narrow now, and that narrow now is extremely rickety and needed a lot of ifs to happen for it to work. So it's obviously, I think, one of the worst trades ever, but the short-sightedness of it is staggering. And then where the straw that broke the camel's back for me is you also then sort of traded away the culture of your past. And that's where, and by culture, I just mean like you just abandoned this is what's so damn frustrating, is that Nico won't shut the fuck up about defense wins championships. He won't. And it's the very first thing he said after the trade. I remember Tim McMahon tweeted it. It's the very first thing. And he's been saying it over and over again. Guess what he doesn't know about his fan base? Every one of us weirdos is on the internet arguing with people that Dirk is better than Kevin Garnett because defense doesn't win championships. Like, that is the Mavericks way. That is the Mavericks way. It might not be right, but it's the Mavericks way. And so it's like, the call is literally coming from inside the house. The guy who thinks KG is better than Dirk is running the team. The guy who thinks Luka is fat, that we've been arguing with this whole time for the last 3 years on Twitter, is running the team. So, and the ownership group has no grasp of the culture of Mavs fandom that they don't see by sticking with this guy. They are actively putting a hand to their fan base's face. And that's what's frustrating. And I can't, that's what made me so like, when he keeps saying defense wins championships, that is literally the opposite of how Mavs fans have ever felt. If you're a Mavs fan, you believe transcendent offense wins championships.
So give me a genie shows up. Maybe not even a genie. This could actually happen. Nico gets fired. I thought you were saying
genie bus. Shows up and says, you know what? You can have him back. Yeah. JJ's going to be the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. We want you to be happy, Jason.
Nico Harrison gets fired, and fill in the blank of whatever you believe to be the dream front office exec takes over. Is that a path that leads Jason Gallagher back to Mavericks fandom?
All right. Steve Nash is the head coach. Dirk Nowitzki is the head decision maker.
Is the GM. Yeah.
I think it would have to take some level of. I really can't see a world, but I think my relationship with the Mavericks is done. I think
Dirk is outside holding a boombox outside your window, blasting Peter Gabriel, saying, "Jason, come back to me."
I will. If that exact scenario happens, I'm in. But I think that I've closed that chapter of my life. But I will say that I have thought about how they can start to really repair their relationship. And some people are like, no, you got to see his vision through, or no, that would be a betrayal. No, you have to fire Nico. And it's not a cute chant. It actually does need to happen, because you have to show your fan base you're listening. You have to. And so when you hear like Nico outwardly be like, well, I didn't know Luka mattered to the fan base. Like, okay, so you can acknowledge that you were wrong about something. Now it's time you really acknowledge that, hey, we hear you. We understand. Like, because right now, like, the players are likable, like, so like, let's get the fan base on our side to cheer for these likable players. That is exactly what I would do. And if they need to bottom out, Mavs fans have cheered for bad Mavs teams in the past. It's happened. It will slowly start to heal a little bit, but they cannot start the healing process. They cannot. Winning won't do it with Nico in the building. They cannot start the healing process until they can get a GM who's allowed to sit in his own fucking seats. Like, hey, if the GM can't sit in your seats, maybe he shouldn't be working there. Like, we're reaching idiocracy with this whole thing.
Did Dirk Nowitzki, was that the thing that the straw that broke the camel's back, when they basically antagonized Dirk and to the point where he was like no longer had a line or cut off the line to the organization, and the only time he's going to go to a Mavs game is to be in LA to support Luka? If Dirk changes the way he responds to the trade, do you feel differently?
I don't know. It definitely wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back, but it did confirm a lot of how I felt. I was pretty out.
Like, if Dirk is out.
Once it became clear that the Mavericks were going to stick with Nico, once that became crystal clear, I was like, I'm out. Because I knew by then it had become very real. Like, it was just very clear why Nico traded Luka. It was very clear he had no grasp on what the Mavericks were even about. It seems like he's a bigger Laker fan, which don't even be started there, but it seems like he's a bigger Laker fan than he is a Mavericks fan. Why no one has looked into this, I don't know. But I'll just say that is once it became clear that the ownership group was going to stick with Nico and is probably not going to fire him anytime soon. I was just like, yep. I don't think I understand this. I don't think that anybody understands each other right now. And poor Rick Welts. I mean, get out of there, buddy. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Get out. Why is he doing this to himself? Like, people
Rick's
like
addicted.
him.
Rick's an addict.
But people like him.
This is the third time he's come back from retirement. He's worse than Michael Jordan.
No,
Rick
I
Wells
get,
is
I get
addicted
that,
to.
but he has a good reputation.
I know, like Michael Jordan.
Why is he doing it here? Any other team would hire him, right?
He's just. I mean, I don't know. Rick's getting up there in age. Maybe any other team wouldn't, but he's addicted. But Nico is not a Laker fan. What he is something far more insidious. I coined this term years and years ago, and then I had to retire it due to understandable circumstances. But I feel like for this one moment, I can unretire it. He's a Kobistani. He's a proud citizen of the nation of Kobistan, which means that everything and anything that Kobe Bryant said or believed is the gospel, and everything else is just heresy.
Maze, were you waiting for what Amin was going to say there? I was on the edge of my seat
scared.
trying to fit. I
unfortunately knew where he was going. So
because when you talk
this thing I could no longer say, but now I'm going to bring it back out of retirement. I was like, oh god,
people got soft there for a while. Wasn't allowed to say Kobistan, but now we're back.
Then an election happened, and now we're back. But the idea of like when you hear Nico talk,
yeah,
it is the words of someone who worshipped at the altar of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
my star player has to be serious all the time, and how many milligrams is in this thing, and that's how a franchise player behaves, right? Oh, this guy's having a beard. Oh, he's not serious. That's one, and two, reducing everything to jingoistic, mindless expressions like defense wins championships.
Well, yeah, it's but it's not real. So the defense wins championship thing is just simply the excuse he's given because he doesn't like Luka.
Oh, you think that's not his?
No.
The only thing he can go with, right?
It's all he's got. It's and that's what's so frustrating, I think, to Mavericks fans. Because again, ask people who hate Mavericks fans. I mean, like Matt Moore, we love to argue with. It's like that's what we've been arguing this whole time, and now it's as if they put Matt Moore in charge of the team, which I would actually enjoy, but it's like a guy who actively seems to dislike Luka. You know what I mean? And so, but with back to your Lakers point, I agree that it is a Kobe love, but it's like a lot of things. It's best friends with Rob Pelinka. It's
thanks
just,
for Kobe.
It's
another
just
Kobe.
Yeah,
I understand. It's just something that I'm a little like, so. It's so weird. It's so, and again, I went to the first Laker Mavs game in LA, and he was there, just parading around the court because he was in the safe space.
They love him there.
And he's just like chopping it up with all these Laker people, and I'm kind of like, man, no one got to look into this. Like, this is the most crazy thing ever. And he gave Luka to them on a discount, let's be real, based on what his value is. He gave them that, and all of his post stuff is like the great Laker Kobe Bryant once said. I'm like, oh my God, is no one? I'm not saying you got to stop the trade, but is no one going to look into like he just gifted his boy something awesome, and he in his timetable for the Mavericks, he's outwardly saying it was like, that's till the end of my contract. Fuck it.
Used to call them the Knights of the Triangle Table.
Yeah,
the elites of the Kobistani world. Pelinka was in that. Nico was in that. Paul George is in that. Like it's this group of guys that their whole worldview of basketball is all seen through the lens of Kobe good, everything else not so good.
Yeah.
What's Luka like outside of the basketball court? Because you've gotten to do podcasts with him, and people, I think, before the trade didn't know much about Luka. But you've actually gotten a chance to know him a little bit off the floor. Are you holding on to those memories, or are you still a little bit like bitter about the fact that he's no longer on quote unquote your team, that you got to know this guy and your son probably adores him and worships him. And it's like, oh man, now he's on another team.
I've gotten to be around him a little bit post the trade too. And he's just like, I mean, he's just very soft spoken. He's like, really dry sense of humor, very, very funny. It's wild that JJ is this coach because my only lens is just them giving each other shit the whole constantly. And so I'm a fan of his because I think that it's really crazy how different his on-court persona is versus his off-court persona. And it's just the one thing that I do just really agree with Mark Cuban about when it comes to, talking about he I don't remember in what of the many interviews he's given since the trade. But he was talking about his work ethic and stuff like that. And he was just basically like, I think you got to understand where these guys are from. And it's not the 24/7 AAU Kobe vibe. It is like, enjoy your life, but like try to create a 4-on-3 opportunity. and fans are going to scream at you. You scream back. Like it's really, really just, it's just different. And I think that some people are like, is he ever going to get in shape? I'm like, I genuinely don't know if he gives a shit still. Like to this day, I'm not sure he gives a shit. I do think that there's something to like I'm really good at basketball. And when I stop being good at basketball, I'll stop being good at basketball. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just, that he seems like the most chill dude off the court in that sense. But an absolute maniac.
Do you think you could be a future co-host of that podcast in the way he thinks about the game, or does he just like I get 4-on-3s? I make spots.
He doesn't.
He does not mind the game. He's just
he minds the game, but he doesn't know how to express it. It's all so second nature to him that you've tried to ask multiple times, like what's going through your head with this, that, the other, and it's just like it's what it is. My favorite moment ever with him on one of our shows was, and it went really in theme with how we prepped for it, which was that Luka is a guy who ultimately is like, views basketball as like a playground sport still. Like he's still a little bit like just trying to just do the wildest shit possible. I mean, so we asked him, of the many big shots he's hit in his career, at this point, he had all these game winners or whatever. And it's like, what was the most meaningful? What's the biggest shot you ever hit? And he sat and he like leaned back in his chair and he's like really thinking. And then he was like, December 2023 warm up. He was like, I threw the ball up. It was like, it was a real answer. And he was a genuine answer. He's like, I threw the ball up and then it bounced and then like hit it off my shoulder. It went in. And I know it's a genuine answer because he had one Mavs employee with him during the taping, and afterwards he was like, we didn't get footage of that shot, and we then had to hire somebody to film his warm-ups because that he was that upset that didn't get recorded. So just imagine that, like that's the biggest shot he's ever hit in his brain. Which is just a fascinating thing. That's why I'm like, he could never be a podcast guy because he's just like, I don't know, great. But I think it speaks a little bit more to how he was raised with basketball, that's something that, I've read his like study on youth basketball, whatever, but just how he was raised. And like most of his drills were 4-on-3 and not 1-on-1 or 2v2. It's like 4-on-3, 4-on-3, 4-on-3 since he was like a child, so. It's just very fascinating. He's just a fascinating dude.
It is crazy because you're talking about a prodigy, right? And beyond just the cultural differences of growing up in, I guess, Slovenia, and even then you could say Slovenia/Spain because he was a child when he moved to Spain. But beyond that, it is the prodigy part of it. It's one of the things that I think is most ridiculous about LeBron is that for someone who was a child prodigy, he's fairly normal. Like, yeah, he's got his like little idiosyncrasies that we can make fun of, reading only the first page of a book or whatever. But like overall, someone who grew up like LeBron at being at the center of attention from such a young age, really not like, oh, this kid's a 5-star recruit. Like, no, this is the second coming,
right?
And to grow up to be a relatively normal human being is quite a stretch. I look at Luka and I'm like, that's probably more what it looks like as far as being a child prodigy and trying to relate to people who could never see the world the way you see it because you're just touched by the hand of God in that way. I'm curious, like, is this like 5 years from now, is he going to be Do you think he like grows and matures? So right now, he probably wouldn't be a great candidate for mind the game. When he's 32, 33, do you think that changes maybe?
I don't think so. He really just strikes me as like a really simple guy. I mean, from what I've heard about him is he loves the ocean. He loves to fish.
Cars? Sure.
He loves cars. I was told that like, cause back when we were thinking about doing podcast episodes, like he when in the summers, he just like rents an RV and he just like, you know what I mean? Like and it goes to Slovenia and he just, I really do think it's, he's pretty simple in that sort of way. And I think that's what's so funny about all of this is that, he really like when he got traded, everybody's first reaction was, at least in my circles, where he must have asked out, which is like what the superstar answer is. But the real answer is that he cried and threw his phone. And it's like, so human that to your point, I mean, it's like that's what's so interesting about him being in LA and all this other stuff. I think he's a simple guy. He loves basketball. Like, I don't think it goes much beyond that. So,
Jason, let me ask you something else about Mind the Game. The decision to cast Steve Nash.
Yeah.
Because
why didn't you choose a meme? Like he was right there.
Tom, I'm gonna tell you the funniest shit because I got lunch and I'm walking back and I was thinking about why did they choose Steve? And then in my mind, I created this whole scenario where it was an actual casting call and you brought back all these other former players to come in and sit down and read the lines. And then Steve came in and he came in character. It's like, oh shit, this is our guy. It's like the story of how JB Smoove became Leon Black on Curve. Like he walked into the open casting in character, walked right up to Larry nose to nose. But beyond like what I imagined to be like, oh, it's straightforward because Steve and Dirk and the connections there and Casey and all those guys. Was that always your idea? Like, oh, Steve's the next guy. Should JJ ever leave, or how did that come about?
No, we had a list that we had sort of created internally, and he was on the list, and I would ask around, and of the people on the list, people were like, Steve is special. Like he and for me, what I was trying to find was how could we make this feel special? So you have to consider like how exposed is because there were some names that were like pretty traditional media people. So it's like, is it going to feel special if LeBron is talking to so-and-so who's on TV multiple times a week?
Stephen A. Smith.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah. But so there's a number of things that were just sort of considered and enough people just sort of sold me on Steve. I had never really met him. And then I actually was asked to talk to him. And so we talked for a long time. It was awesome. And at the end of it, he was like, well, I want to make sure I'm the right person. So let me, I don't know if I am. And there was something about him kind of not trying to get it that like made me want, it was like a little bit of maybe it was a mind fuck, but I was kind of like, oh man. And
you
then
fell for the Nash.
Yeah.
that's how he gets you.
But he's not doing this, for reason. Like he wanted to do these for the right reason, which is like, I know that one of the weirdest parts about working with LeBron is how everyone thinks, I mean, that it's some grand Illuminati situation. The JJ coaching thing was probably the funniest thing I've ever had to witness in my entire life. And people are like, oh, it was planned. And it's like, I promise you, it was not planned unless there's a separate Illuminati meeting with me not in it. But the Nash thing, yeah. And then we kind of like, and then we just sold LeBron on it, and he didn't know Nash super well, but he was, I remember he always said like, he can't be his size and be that successful and not be a genius. Yeah. So let's roll.
So the things about Steve, like the genius part, I think like LeBron, most people would assume, right? Mm-hmm. 2-time MVP, was not gifted with incredible physical abilities, although I think his physical abilities are underrated. Like, okay, he's a genius. I think the part that a lot of people don't understand is kind of going with what you just said about Luka. That's not a rarity. Most of these guys are not really great at expressing the genius, breaking it down. And Steve is really good at explaining it in a way that A, makes you see the game differently, and B, doesn't make you feel like a dumbass along the way. Right? Because there's some people who can explain, then there's some people who can explain, but you're going to feel like, oh yeah, I'm an idiot, and this person is just so much smarter than me or whatever.
Yeah, and some folks have said that about JJ, is that he could be a little asshole-ish. And in fact, the first time someone sold me on Nash, they were like, he's like JJ, but he's not an asshole. And I was like, it's funny. But I say that he knows asshole is a compliment. So I just want to get that out there. But anyway, with Nash, I mean, he actually, like, it was pretty clear pretty early on just how he's different than JJ in my experience. Like, he's not as obsessed with certain technicalities within the game. He's a much more philosophical guy. But the one thing that I think that he is better at JJ at is he's much more poetic in the way he speaks. And I think that that's like really kind of cool. He has had moments where it's like, oh, wow, like what a beautiful way to put that. And he sees the game. Another huge thing is that, like, I think a conversation is more interesting when you have two very different kinds of backgrounds. And Steve grew up playing soccer. He grew up playing all these different sports. It's huge. He attributes that to a huge reason why he found success. That's an interesting point of view that I want present in the show. And I think that makes for a better conversation. And like you said, he's a really great speaker. Like he really great at speaking the game and talking the game. And he likes to think about the game in reality, and he's clearly brilliant. I mean, even the Brooklyn shit, it's like, man, they were pretty fucking close. Like he's and given all the limitation,
a toe away from going. The way I describe Steve is every one of us grew up with this one kid who was just fucking awesome at everything. Like ping pong, the volleyball, like it didn't matter what it was. Like, hey, you know what? Let's go play video games. He's awesome at that too.
My guy, his name was Jeff Lindsay. That was my version growing up. Shout out Jeff Lindsay, just better at me at everything.
That's what Steve Nash is, and it is kind of crazy to see the through line through it all. Is someone who has a great concept of perspective.
Yes.
Right. I think that's one of the things. He has a level of perspective, which I think is kind of, you talk about JJ's obsession with the technicality and the detail. And Steve is the opposite in that he can see the bigger picture of how all this fits in. And I always bring up this example because it is one of the most shining moments. We had a play series, elbow series, right? And Boris would catch it at the elbow, and then Steve could either cut on the strong side or cut off the weak side, and then it trigger all different things, right? And the way teams would defend it, they wouldn't let Boris catch at the elbow, because if he catches it like the 3-point line, then it fucks up the spacing and it makes it easier for them to guard everything on the back end. Right. So Steve says to Boris, next time they do that, fight against them, but lose the fight. So that you allow yourself to get pushed out. And then when you're up here, we're going to turn it into a step up. And now they're in pick and roll, and they're not ready. They were ready for all this motion shit. We're in pick and roll. They're dead. And I was just like, whoa. That's like, instead of being like, hey, how can we make sure our shit runs right? It's like, no, let them win. Yeah. And then we're just going to, and that's like, to me, there's a million examples of Steve having these observations, but like, that's really what it is, man. It's just, this dude has such a amazing command of the entire picture that it didn't matter if you stymied him here or here or here. He was going to find a way to reroute the kind of the flow of water and get to where he was going to go anyway. Yeah.
And I think, the spirit of mind the game, it's a pretty genuine thing. Again, I understand cynicism around some of these big names and all that stuff, but like, I was there in the inception of the idea. We did the whole first season without selling it to anyone. Like it was an effort to say, like, we really want to do this. And Steve fits that so well and in surprising ways. And because I remember feeling this like oh man, he's not grabbing the clipboard enough, or whatever, based on the previous iteration of my game. And I remember episode 2, he was like, I want to talk to LeBron about his body, and I was like, is that? But in the end, it is in the spirit of it. It's still trying to celebrate and educate on like, hey, this is kind of what goes into it too.
This is what it takes. Yeah.
And so it's been a really, really fun thing because he's like really challenged sort of what I thought the show is, because his view on it is, like you said, I mean, it's so big picture. It's really cool. I don't know. I love talking to, we had some of the topics or conversations we're going to have in the future are just so grand. I'm like, wow, how are we going to tackle that? It's like, it's just wild, but it's been a real treat, especially growing up in Dallas. Like we do these calls every other day, and it's just he and I just get to kind of ask him whatever I want. And it's pretty wild. I don't know. It's a lucky
low
situation.
Talker though. Probably it's a low talker. Steve talks like this, and sometimes you're just like, could you speak up a little bit more?
Hey, man,
my dog has entered the chat. Sorry if you heard that. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. That's probably our reminder that we've gone way too long with you, Jason. Thank you so much, dude. That was awesome. I don't know what the next act is going to be with your fandom, and I think you hit it right on the head. Is that like there's almost this purity, innocence that this honeymoon phase that this team is going through, and that's the crucible of the NBA playoffs, and we're about to find out.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like with this Thunder team, I always like to, I'm always a big, I fell in love with the game because of story and because of the theater of it, to be honest. Funny that I'm working on a show called Mind the Game, but I just do love the theater of professional sports. And right now it's like this super young team, and can they actually do it with this little experience? I don't know. Can you still have the rights to HalleLuka? Like you could. I don't have no.
Like you could kind of spin it back up, like I don't know. Kind of feels like you can own it now. Like this is mine now. You guys traded a
remix.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely. Yeah. The first thing I did. I don't mind sharing this. One of the first things I did was share the Photoshop files to all the Lakers people I know. Like it's not Dallas's, but you guys have it. Yeah. So
we'll see if they give you some better tickets.
I've been taken care of thus far.
Oh,
amazing.
Thanks, Jeannie.
JJ, man, JJ.
Jeannie's like, don't mention it. Sim Salabim. Oh wait, you meant the other Jeannie. I'm sorry. I'll go back to getting Nico fired.
Jason Gallagher, appreciate you coming by. This has been great. Thanks, dude.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Jason.